From the campus of the University of Nebraska at Omaha, consider this with Cathy Wyatt, a program of issues and information behind today's news.
The highest priority of economic development is helping our Nebraska businesses grow. The growth of Nebraska and our businesses and for the people's off the charts.
Hi everyone, I'm Cathy Wyatt. Welcome to the 29th season and this week's edition of Consider This. Our topic, the Nebraska economy. Joining us to talk more about it are Ernie Goss, McAllister Chair and Professor of Economics at Creighton University, and Todd Bingham. Todd is the President and CEO of the Nebraska Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Thank you both so much for being here and welcome.
Good to be here. Thank you.
All right, Ernie, I'm going to start with you.
Okay.
How would you describe the current economy?
Well, you got a guy with one hand in the fireplace and one in the refrigerator. On average, he's doing quite well. But the extremes, that's where the problems are. And at Creighton University, we do 2 surveys a month. One of bank CEOs in rural areas of 10 states, including Nebraska, and one of supply managers in 10 mid-America states, and that's both include Nebraska. And we're seeing the two sectors we focus on, agriculture, not good right now. It's very, I would say, fairly significant weakness, some of the weakest we've seen in a couple of decades. And then on the manufacturing side, we've recorded seven straight months of job losses. Now this is at the regional level. At the Nebraska level, not as much, but in the national level, job losses in manufacturing. So if you go outside that, you're doing reasonably well. Even there, you're talking about an economy that, if it's based on high-income spenders, the 20% I'll call them, it's the K-shaped economy. If you can imagine a K, that going up there, that's the 20%, and then the other, the 80% going down. The whatever you wish to call that base of the K, not so well. So if you look at consumer spending, you see it there, the divergence between those who are higher income, more well-to-do, and they invest in the stock market, and those who are not as well off, doing some of the tougher times we've seen since the great financial recession of 2008 and 9.
Okay, thank you. We're going to put up a graphic for our viewers, and as we're doing that, I want to rewind. At the end of last year. We had you on the program, and we were asking you about the 2025 economic outlook.
Okay.
Did you hit the mark, Ernie? Why or why not?
Of course I hit the mark. No, the tariffs, of course, were quite evident what was going to happen in tariffs. The president announced it. He did it. I think now he's regretting it, as I thought he would, and some of the painful aspects of it are coming home to roost. That would be China. And we had China cut back 8 million bushels of soybean. Of course, Nebraska grows a few soybeans. They switched to Brazil, and that hurt Nebraska. Then if you look at some of the other factors that we talked about in the slower growth economy, we're seeing that. We've seen it throughout. Immigration was obviously a big issue, big, and that cuts both ways, some positives and some negatives in terms of the president's and the administration's immigration policy.
Okay, it leaves Nebraskans wondering, where we are in all of this. And in August, Representative Don Bacon said that we were in a recession economy, citing a 6% decrease, right, in the GDP. How do you comment? What is your?
I would agree with Congressman Bacon in some regards. The Atlanta Fed and the New York Fed have GDP now. They are estimates for the third quarter. Both of them are way over the top in my judgment. 3.9% for the Atlanta Fed and 2.5, I think it is, for the New York Fed of GDP growth. That's well above recession level. However, they're including in the investment in what we call data centers and AI. That dwarfs the other part where you're seeing some downdraft in it, like consumption. What about the government spending? What about net exports? Those we're seeing some pretty negative numbers there. So it depends on which part. When you put it all together, I think Congressman Bacon's estimate is quite severe. It's not that bad in the nation, but it's not good either. We're talking about slow to no growth and potentially recession.
Okay. Thank you, Todd. We're going to put up another graphic for the viewers, and as we do that, it's kind of an overview of Nebraska, if you will. Talk with us a little bit about those milestones that got us to what we're seeing here.
Yeah, you know, obviously this is 2024 data and has Nebraska ranked at number 5. Obviously, you know, kind of middle of the pack on college educated and some of those things. Median income, that's obviously kind of what you would expect. But as you look at the rankings, there's a few areas that I think maybe cause you to wonder. It's always interesting how they come up with the numbers too, because you can look at state by state and kind of think, what do we know about this state? And I've kind of enjoyed looking back at that, kind of determining, well, what do I really think our ranking might be if I was to look at it? What does that mean? And I think there's certainly some opportunities for growth. And I would agree with Dr. Goss that we're probably underperforming right now, even though we're ranked number 5. I think there's opportunity, and there's certainly some opportunity for us to look at growth, some other things that are impacting the economy, in my opinion.
Okay, let's put up another graphic for the viewers, and thank you for that. We are ranked 5 behind Utah, New Hampshire, Idaho, and Minnesota. Before we dig a little deeper into the economy piece, I mean, when you look at this graphic, Todd, what jumps out at you?
You know, there's a couple numbers that jump out at me. To be overall rank at 5 is kind of an interesting number for me. I don't know that personally I would say we're probably there, but when you do all the rankings, obviously that's where it comes from. Economy at 29, I think is a pretty accurate number. We have some opportunity, but I think we're underperforming there, and in some ways we're not competing as much as we probably should. We've always done very well in education, and Nebraska is well known for its education capabilities and our high numbers there. Fiscal stability, I guess I didn't dive in enough on how we're ranking fiscal stability, but I think we certainly have some challenges on fiscal stability coming towards us, certainly with the legislature coming up, you know, north of $500 million in a deficit is what we're kind of looking at. So that's an interesting number. Healthcare, we're a pretty strong state when it comes to healthcare. I've known that. Infrastructure at number 1. Interesting stat, number 1. I think that probably depends on who you ask and what their commute time is and where they're driving in the Omaha or Lincoln area, or you know, there's red cones here and there's cattle blockages in other areas of the state. So infrastructure, interesting number. But again, lastly, opportunity. And I like that number of where we're at 14. I think that is something to focus on, is where could we be and what is the opportunity for business climate and the economic development.
Okay, tell us about the Nebraska Chamber of Commerce and Industry.
Yeah, a statewide business organization that serves to represent business and drive the economy forward. Our mission is forward together, empowering communities and businesses and quality of life across the state. So we focus on policy and positions, not on people and politics, but we look at how to drive the economy through developing good policy that helps Nebraska be a great state for business.
Thank you. What is your role?
President and CEO of the organization, and relatively new to Nebraska, about six months here in this role, but been in the business industry for associations for about 30 years.
So relatively new to the role and the state. What have you liked best about being here in Nebraska?
That's interesting. I was home in Salt Lake this past weekend seeing my grandkids, and my sons asked me the same question. And I said, you know what, this might sound a little trivial, but the sunsets are off the charts here. And that's coming from somebody who watched the sunset over the mountains for most of my life, but they are incredible here. Nebraska nice is certainly a thing, and I think that's one area where I would certainly agree with the governor. It's about the people, and it's about the fact that here, it's certainly that Nebraska nice is a real thing, and it is one of our biggest assets that we have going for us. Okay,
well, an official welcome to you.
Thank you.
All right, I want to ask you to define economic development.
Oh, goodness. I think from my standpoint within the chamber world, I think we would say that it is the building up of business, the strengthening of communities, and the enhancing of a quality of life. And I think that economic development sometimes is maybe pigeonholed a little bit into jobs. It is far more than that. It is certainly that rising tide that lifts all boats in communities across the state, whether that be in Omaha or whether it be in Ord. That certainly is an important thing.
Okay, and your priority when it comes to economic development, what is number one for you?
Goodness, that's a tough one as well. I think for us right now, it probably is focused in, boy, you're asking me to pick my favorite child here. I guess I would probably say that it's workforce, which is how do we prepare today's generation to go into the workforce. As we do that from both a collegiate level and academia, trades, other areas, we're providing for the skill set and the technical side of how we drive the economy forward and meet our needs. I know we're going to talk a little bit about AI, and that's certainly part of it, but most states around the country are struggling with a reduction in birth rate and a slowing in putting individuals into the job market and in the workforce, and that's having an impact across the country.
Okay, going back to our opening clip, Governor Pellin said that the business growth in this state is, quote, off the charts. I'm actually curious as to what both of you think about this, and I'm going to go ahead, Ernie, I'll start with you. Okay. How do you respond to that?
Well, it's off the charts, as I said, back to the average. In some extremes, yes. In some other areas, agriculture not off the charts, not in manufacturing off the charts. But the overall economy, yes, it is growing quite briskly. But I have to say, you know, back to the question you asked Todd about economic development, I've been here my family and I, a few decades. I came from Georgia. And the questions we ask of here are far different. We obsess about how do we get these young guys and gals to come here and stay here. I don't think that's the right question. I mean, when I first came, I remember I had a student in my class, and he said, I can't wait to get the heck out of here and get home back to Chicago. And I said, why? He said, every time I walk down the street, people saying, hi, hi. And I'm like, and that's a bad? Yes, it was. In other words, what I think, and I had just had a student who graduated, went to San Francisco. And I'm like, Peter, you'll be back here. I mean, in other words, there's a certain resistance. That group of individuals are not attracted to Nebraska. They're not attracted to Omaha. They're attracted to San Francisco, Atlanta, Chicago. We need to focus on the bread and butter things we're good at. And I hate to see us, do we really want to become a St. Louis? Is that progress? No. Anyone in your viewing audience, I doubt if there's anybody says, yes, I want to be like St. Louis. No. And I don't mean to say anything negative about St. Louis, but it's a dangerous city, and it's not where we want to be. So I think this obsession, back to well, how do we get the young people here? I proposed about data centers. Data centers, I got to some in the chamber, not necessarily the state chamber, or the Omaha chamber. Why don't we recruit data centers here? Well, they don't get enough employees. They're not. But the investment, look at the investment of data centers. Look at the property taxes they pay. I think we sometimes get obsessive about looking at that type of development, recruiting young men, young women, and maybe we need to talk about those who might be coming back to Nebraska. That's what I think, you know.
Sitting next to the president and CEO of the Nebraska Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Todd, any comments on what Ernie has just stated, or should we jump straight to the off the charts comment? What do you think?
I think I would agree with Ernie in the sense that it's about quality of life. It's about creating an environment that today's generation wants, and that is beyond just the job. That is something that I believe places like Omaha and Lincoln and many other places. I was at a wonderful restaurant a little while back in Tecumseh, right? I mean, so it is food, it's environment, Absolutely. It's quality of life. It's that whole thing when you talk about economic development and why that younger generation wants to come here, stay here. And I think Ernie's hit some of that nail on the head.
Okay.
Right. Education, for example, quality education. We provide that. I think it's provided. We low crime rate. I know some in Nebraska think not, but I live near Atlanta. I grew up near Atlanta. Talk about crime, that's crime.
Well, let's talk about something that Governor Pillen said was number one, and that's the cattle industry. So Todd, talk to us, give us a few examples of growth in that area.
Yeah, certainly. We've had certainly Sustainable Beef is a new facility out in North Platte, and that is certainly something from an economic standpoint is good for the entire state of Nebraska. I would say that we do need to continue, and Ernie mentioned this, to continue to diversify the economy, and we need to be able to look at what are the gaps and the holes in our economy. He indicated that manufacturing and ag are both kind of down a little bit. And focusing on what we are and can be, I think, is an area we can look at that. Look at things like defense and aerospace. We're strong in the insurance market. We're strong in the finance side of things. So those are areas we're really good at. Cattle has been a little bit of a rough go. And even recently on the Argentine beef deal, there's differing opinions on that as well. So when you tie that all to corn, feedstock, commodities, ethanol, all of that, I believe that diversifying our economy is a good thing that Nebraska has the opportunity to do, certainly with interstates running straight through the middle of the state.
Cathy, in that regard, when I said ag is right now is weak and creating weakness in a lot of connected, linked industries, I was not saying we shouldn't grow that. I mean, there's so many opportunities. Nebraska has the most, this area, this part of the country, the most productive agriculture on the face of the earth. That is an industry with backward linkages, forward linkages that are quite significant and can grow the entire state. The idea that somehow this is a return to the 1930s or 40s is just not there. The average size of a farm in Nebraska is 900 to 1,000 acres. As you said, cattle was been really good this year in terms of price. Now, in terms of price, but grain not so much. So we have, and I think we have to understand. I would wish some in Washington D.C. understood how important international markets are to our manufacturers and to our agriculture.
Okay, I do want to ask, because we have a lot of good things going, but there are also some areas where we can be doing better. Todd, from where you're sitting in your role, what would you say are the three greatest challenges that this state is facing? And talk a little bit about the conversations that you're having, not only with your immediate team, but with those businesses across the entire state. Yeah,
we've got about 6 or 8 more, but we've been doing listening sessions with all the regional chambers around the state, and 3 things that are coming up consistently across the board. One is childcare. We just released a study on childcare yesterday from our foundation, which talks about a significant economic impact due to lack of childcare, and some unique things about Nebraska that, if you get a chance to take a look at that, I think that's a big opportunity for us and a challenge. Second is affordable housing and the ability to really provide housing for those individuals. And then third is probably tax policy and trying to drive ourselves forward in an economy that encourages companies to come to Nebraska, stay in Nebraska, develop in Nebraska, and continue to grow. And so those are the 3 things I think right now that are our biggest challenges. Now, while those are challenges, they're also opportunities.
All right, and I was going to ask Ernie this question too, just kind of piggybacking on what you said. To say it is one thing and start working on it, but Ernie, what's it really going to take when we talk about the 3 areas that he just mentioned to get us from point A to point B successfully?
I agree 100% on the child care issue, but also property taxes. And the property taxes are outrageously high in Nebraska. Now, what can be done about it? Roll those into sales taxes and others. You've got so many exemptions in the state of Nebraska, those who do not pay. And we're sitting here at University of Nebraska, Omaha. I come from Creighton University across town. You can go into our restaurants, pay no sales tax on the meal you eat. That should be changed. In other words, the nonprofits in the state of Nebraska need to pay their share of the sales tax, raise the sales tax rate, reduce the property taxes, and you will have faster growth, in my judgment. So.
I think Ernie hit a nail on the head, which is kind of a basic tax principle out there, which is to broaden the base and lower the rate, which is what we ought to be doing and looking at that. Property tax is something we're very, very interested in, and that hits businesses and homeowners across the state very equally. So certainly there's some opportunities. There's some things we ought to be looking at, and I think what we would all agree on is it's time to get outside the box a little bit, and it's time to look at some things that perhaps other states have done, find out where they haven't succeeded, don't make those same mistakes, but then really get together on a focused strategy of how we grow the economy.
Are we positioned, Todd, from where you are, your perspective, are we positioned in a way that will allow us to go forward in the direction that you're saying? I mean, do you see kind of that light at the end of the tunnel?
There's a light at the end of the tunnel. I'm not sure at the moment if it's an oncoming train or not, but maybe I'm speaking out of school, but I think there are some things we need to do. We need to incentivize business to come to the state, and we need to look at how we do that in a mechanism that grows communities. Investment in childcare, investment in housing, by businesses who are helping us thrive in those communities. Again, get outside the box, and Nebraska needs to compete, and we need to compete with the states that are around us. And as those states continue to draw business and help those companies grow, we need to do the same thing. Ernie mentioned it from a data center standpoint. You know, we've got to get aggressive on energy. And we have to get aggressive on energy right now in order to meet the demand in the next decade and beyond. That may be the single largest opportunity and challenge for us moving forward is energy.
Absolutely. Energy is critical. Talking about electricity. And that's not just electricity, but that's certainly a factor.
Natural gas as well.
Natural gas as well. Certainly natural gas. And I don't know if we're there yet, but piggybacking on what Todd's saying also is you pay 2 to 2.5 to even more % of your house property taxes. I don't want to jump on that, but you cannot pay this and not. It really slows growth if you do it statistically. I've looked at the statistics on it. I've run it. I've done every twist you can about it. It pays to substitute with higher sales taxes, lower property taxes, and as Todd said, broaden the base. Now that means cutting out some of what we enjoy at Creighton and UNO and other nonprofits. Maybe we enjoy a little less than that and pay more of our share, what I think.
Okay, thank you. We have about 5 minutes remaining. I want to get into a couple of different topics here. The first one, Todd, I'll start with you. AI and Nebraska economy. How do we even open that conversation, right?
It's an interesting conversation. We spent a lot of time talking about AI, and you know, you asked me to define economic development. Harder than that is to define AI, right? And how it's impacting businesses and how it will moving forward. Significant opportunity in the AI world, whether it be in manufacturing or whether it be in the ag industry. I was at a conference the other day looking at autonomous farm vehicles being operated on your phone. Those things are going to be interesting as we talk about workforce. So we talk about replacing retiring baby boomers right now at 10,000 a day. Certainly AI and automation is going to help with that. I think the biggest challenge with AI, I would say, is that it's so hard to depict and determine where are we going to be in 10 years. Back to Ernie's point though, on the economy, AI right now across the nation on growth of GDP, don't quote me on this, but the numbers for AI growth are north of 70% of the total GDP in growth is tied to AI in some form or another. That's staggering, and I think it's going to be very interesting to watch over the next decade.
Thank you. And Ernie, your question is really geared towards folks who are watching, thinking about what else but the holidays that are coming up and how they're going to be able to balance, right, what it is that they want to be able to do, but what's the reality of what they're going to be able to do. So talk to our viewers a little bit about heading into the holidays.
Well, first off, I'd like to encourage everyone to buy local if possible. If you've got a competitive company in town, buy from that company. and that supports your overall community. And in your state, buy Nebraska, buy Scottsbluff, wherever you live, buy that. And I think in this Christmas season is going to, and holiday season, buying season, it's going to be a little tougher. Mm-hmm. And why is that? Because a lot of credit. We've got students, for example, now have begun to have to pay back their loans. That's going to reduce some of the consumption. You've got credit card debt, you've got automobile debt, all those building up. So there's going to be a tougher environment, more again on the 80-20. The 20% doing better, purchasing more for the holiday buying season, the 80% less. So overall, I'm not looking for much of a holiday buying season. But again, we can benefit by buying local and resisting the temptation to have it being on your front porch the next morning. How about maybe take a day and just drive down to the local hardware store or whatever and do some shopping there.
Okay. We have about a minute or so left, Ernie. We were sitting in these spots about this time last year. 2026, in a minute, how would you sum up the economic outlook for that?
Unfortunately, slower. We've got some real headwinds out there, economic headwinds with a slower growth economy. We're not losing jobs, but the addition to job growth in the U.S. is just not there. The latest numbers say the last 2 months we grew about 20,000 jobs. That's not good enough. So the Fed's going to be cutting rates. They're going to see lower interest rates. We're going to see lower interest rates, but we're going to see more inflationary pressures. So that's a concern I have. But nonetheless, we're still going to grow, but again, not where we'd like to see. Not enough job growth, and we as workers have to be ready to move quickly and keep educating. I mean, my classroom is not even anything like it was 10 years ago, 5 years ago. I have to be ready.
Okay, talking with Ernie Goss and Todd Bingham today about the Nebraska economy. Folks wanting more information, we'll put that graphic up for you. Opportunity.nebraska.gov, there's the phone number there. Of course, the nebraskachamber.com with a phone number for folks, and Creighton.edu. Gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for being here, sharing your time, your expertise, and wish you both the very best moving forward into the new year.
Thanks, Cathy.
You bet. Thanks to the students who are working so hard behind the scenes.
Yes.
And of course, to all of you for watching. We will see you next week.
Consider This is an issues and information program produced by UNO Television in the School of Communication. More information and program archives can be found at nebraskapublicmedia.org/considerthis. If you'd like to share your comments about this program, call the UNO School of Communication at 402-554-2600 during regular business hours. Or send an email to cwyatt@unomaha.edu.
You are a maverick. You stand ready to change the world. You are an innovator with bold ideas and a vision for the future. You are determined to turn your dreams into reality. You are a leader, committed to making a difference. Your passion for finding solutions transforms research into real-world impact. You are unique, and your voice matters. Your individuality breathes life into the community you're shaping. You are driven, always striving for excellence. Your passion, your hustle, it's not just about today. It's about opening doors to tomorrow. Every skill you sharpen, every connection you make is building the foundation for your future success. With Omaha as your campus, you're at the center of it all. Here at UNO, the possibilities are as endless as your potential. You dare to dream, to innovate, to lead, to shape a brighter future. You are a maverick.
There seems to be like this gathering right here of really great minds and really great ideas.
I think it's a great moment, to teach a UNO student.
Being here, I get like a jump start on my journalism career.
I found a lot of people that are interested in like the same things as me.
Sort of a lifetime changing career for me and the best way it could happen.